Commander Alan Brooks sat motionless at the curved delegate table as the Galactic Council delivered their verdict. His weathered face betrayed no emotion, though inside his stomach churned with a familiar bitterness. The grand chamber hummed, with the quiet murmurs of 200 alien species. Massive crystal pillars rose toward the dome ceiling where holographic stars drifted in perfect recreation of the galaxy they all shared. The council chamber was designed to inspire awe and unity. Today it only felt cold. "The petition for full membership status from Earth is denied," announced the Zolonian High Speaker Zolvaron. The tall, blue-skinned alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he continued. "The Council finds that while humans have made certain technological contributions, they remain culturally unprepared for the responsibilities of full membership." Beside Alan, his deputy Susan Miller clenched her fist beneath the table. Her knuckles whitened, but her face remained diplomatic. This was the 3rd rejection in 50 years. Each time the requirements changed. Each time the goalposts moved. "Does Earth wish to make a statement?" Zolvaron asked, his voice carrying the faintest trace of smugness. Alan stood slowly. At 58, he carried himself with the quiet dignity earned through decades of service. "Earth thanks the Council for its consideration. We have no statement." At this time, whispers spread through the chamber. The humans were usually more vocal in their disappointment. Several delegates looked unsettled by the calm response. Alan gathered his data tablet and nodded to Susan. They exited without another word, their footsteps echoing on the polished stone floor got in the transit pod back to the Earth Embassy. Susan finally broke her silence. "That's it. No protest?" "Number. Appeal? We met every single requirement they set last time." Alan stared out the window as the gleaming spires of Centauri Prime slid past. The capital planet of the Galactic Council hosted thousands of alien species in apparent harmony. Humans were welcome to visit, trade, and even fight in defense of Council interests, but never to join as equals. "We're done playing their game, Susan," Alan said quietly. "I need you to gather the senior staff. Full security protocols." The Earth Embassy occupied a modest building on the diplomatic ring. Unlike the grand structures of founding council races, the human embassy was practical and unadorned. Captain Frank Turner waited for them in the secure conference room, his military posture unchanged from his years commanding Earth defense vessels. The room was swept for surveillance devices 3 times daily. It was the only place they could speak freely. "I watched the broadcast," Frank said as they entered. "Pretty much what we expected." Alan activated the room's privacy field. The air shimmered briefly before clearing. "I need everything we have on council deliberations regarding Earth in the past year, especially the closed sessions." Susan raised an eyebrow. "The stuff from our Drati contact? That's highly classified. And getting it probably violated a dozen council regulations," added Frank. "If they discover we have those recordings..." "They've denied us membership again," Alan replied. "What more can they do to us?" Susan connected her secure tablet to the room's display system. "The Drati have been sympathetic to our position for years. Their junior diplomat risked everything to get us these." The display lit up with footage from council sessions never meant for human eyes. In one, the Zolonian speaker conversed with Verax and Palladian representatives. Their translated words appeared as subtitles. Humans advanced, too. "Quickly," said the Verax delegate. "Their technological development lacks the proper cautious approach. In merely 2 centuries of spaceflight, they've nearly matched achievements that took our civilizations millennia. Yet their innovations against the Void Swarm have proven useful," countered the Palladian. "Perhaps limited technology sharing. Agreements. We already extract what we need," replied Zolvaron. "Full membership would entitle them to knowledge they are not ready to possess. Their unpredictability makes them valuable assets against the swarm, but the same trait makes them dangerous as equals." Alan watched without surprise. The recordings confirmed what many humans had long suspected. Susan swiped to another file, this one showing military deployment maps. "Look at the defense burden," she said. "Humanity provides 23%. Of all forces fighting the Void Swarm, despite representing less than 2% of Council worlds, Frank leaned forward. We've lost thousands of good people defending Council borders, sectors where no humans even live. The next recording showed a Zilonian science minister. The human propulsion innovations have been successfully reverse engineered. We can begin quietly distributing the technology to preferred member worlds next cycle. As usual, we will obscure its origin. Susan shut off the display, her face flushed with anger. They steal our technologies while claiming we're not advanced enough to join them. Alan walked to the window overlooking the city. The afternoon sun cast long shadows from the alien spires. Somewhere in those buildings, council races were making decisions, forming alliances, and shaping the future of the galaxy without Earth. We've been approaching this wrong from the beginning, Alan said finally. We've been trying to prove our worth to earn our place at their table, but they never intended to let us join. So what do we do? Asked Frank. File another petition with different evidence? Appeal to sympathetic races? Alan turned from the window. His expression had changed, a quiet determination replacing his diplomatic mask. No, we stop asking for membership. We withdraw completely. The room fell silent. Susan stared in disbelief. Withdraw? From the council entirely? From everything. Alan confirmed. Military support, scientific cooperation, trade agreements, diplomatic presence. All of it, Frank whistled. That would leave dozens of sectors vulnerable to the Void Swarm. Yes, it would, Alan agreed. Sectors we defend while the Council takes our innovations without credit and denies us a voice in decisions. Susan paced. The economic implications would be enormous. We've built our development around Council trade for nearly a century, and received the worst exchange rates of any spacefaring species, Alan countered. Our economists have modeled this scenario. Short-term disruption, yes, but within 5 years our growth would actually accelerate without council restrictions. Frank nodded slowly. The military has contingency plans for independent operations. We could redirect our forces to protect human interests exclusively. What about the friendly races? Susan asked. The Drati, the Mektar, they've been allies. We'll maintain unofficial channels, Alan replied, but no formal agreements through council structures. The room's communication panel chimed. A young diplomatic aide, Ryan Martinez, appeared on screen. Commander, sorry to interrupt. We've received a data packet from Earth, priority 1. Send it through, Alan instructed. The display showed a transmission from Earth's President Olivia Carter. Her message was brief. Commander Brooks, the Security Council has reviewed your assessment and the supporting evidence. Your recommendation for complete withdrawal has been approved. Preparations begin immediately. You are authorized to deliver formal notice to the Council in 3 weeks. The decision is made. Earth stands alone. Alan looked at his 2 most trusted colleagues. It seems Earth has finally had enough. Susan, prepare our withdrawal strategy. Frank, coordinate with Fleet Command on military extraction protocols. Ryan will handle communications. This will shock the galaxy, Susan said quietly. Alan's expression hardened. Good, they've ignored us for too long. Let's see how the mighty council functions without humanity's help. I suspect they'll miss us far more than they expect. Outside, the artificial night cycle began as lights illuminated the alien city. Soon, those lights would shine without human presence for the first time in nearly a century. The Galactic Council had made their choice. Now humanity would make theirs. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council had never been so full. Species from across the galaxy crowded the tiered seating that rose in a perfect circle around the central speaking platform. Many delegates who rarely attended full sessions had rushed to Centauri Prime upon hearing rumors of an important Earth announcement. The hall buzzed with speculation as translators worked overtime to keep up with hundreds of alien languages. President Olivia Carter stood calmly at the center of it all. Her simple blue suit stood in stark contrast to the elaborate ceremonial garments worn by most council representatives. At 63, the Earth leader carried herself with quiet confidence, born from decades in diplomacy and leadership. Commander Alan Brooks stood several paces behind her, his face revealing nothing of the momentous shift they were about to trigger. High Speaker Zulvaran raised his four-fingered hand, and the chamber gradually fell silent. The Council recognizes President Olivia Carter of Earth, he announced with practiced formality. His tone suggested he expected yet another human plea for reconsideration. Olivia stepped forward. Her voice carried clearly through the hall without enhancement. For 97 years, humanity has contributed to this council. We have shed blood defending your borders. We have shared our unique perspectives and innovations. We have followed your rules and met your standards. 3 times you have denied us equal standing. She paused, letting the words hang in the air. We will not ask again. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. This was not the anticipated speech. As of today, all human forces are withdrawing from joint military operations. All technology sharing programs are suspended. All human diplomatic posts are being recalled. We wish you peace and prosperity as we go our separate way. The silence that followed lasted only seconds before the chamber erupted. Delegates leapt to their feet, voices raised in alarm, confusion, and in some cases outrage. Zulvaran's amplified voice struggled to restore order. This is an emotional overreaction, the High Speaker declared when the noise finally subsided. Surely Earth does not intend to isolate itself from galactic civilization over a simple membership status. President Carter smiled thinly. This is not an emotional decision, Speaker. It is a practical one. We have calculated the value of our contributions against the benefits we receive. The equation no longer balances in our favor. A commotion near one of the entrances drew attention. A draughty messenger rushed to their ambassador, whispering urgently. The tall, avian alien rose immediately, his feather crest fully extended. In alarm, High Speaker, I have urgent security news, called the draughty ambassador. 17 void swarm incursion points have been detected in the outer rim sectors. The human fleets that protected those areas are gone. New chaos erupted. The void swarm had been the galaxy's most persistent threat for centuries, a seemingly endless tide of biomechanical predators that consumed everything in their path. Human tactics and technology had been instrumental in keeping them at bay. This is irresponsible, shouted the Palladian representative. Those sectors contain civilian worlds. Olivia turned to face the accusation. Every world in those sectors rejected mutual defense pacts with Earth last cycle, claiming our protection was unnecessary. We are simply respecting their assessment. Alan stepped forward, addressing the Council for the first time. Evacuation coordinates have been transmitted to all inhabited worlds in the affected sectors. We have provided safe corridor paths and timelines for civilian transport. No lives need be lost if you act quickly. The Zolonian High Speaker's skin darkened with anger. This borders on extortion, Commander. No, Speaker, Alan replied calmly. Extortion would involve demands. We are making none. Humanity is simply reallocating its resources to serve its own interests, as every council race has always done. Across the galaxy, the carefully orchestrated withdrawal was already well underway. Captain Frank Turner stood on the bridge of the EDF Resolute coordinating the massive operation. Hundreds of human ships were disengaging from joint patrols, research stations, and trading posts. Their movements were precise, following plans developed over 3 intense weeks of preparation. Sector 7 withdrawal complete, reported his communications officer. All personnel accounted for. Frank nodded, watching the tactical display as blue icons representing human ships formed new defensive patterns around Earth colonies and interests. Redirect the 4th Fleet to cover the new Montana settlement. Have the science teams from Proxima Station ready for pickup in 6 hours. The operation showcased the very efficiency and discipline the Council had claimed humans lacked. There was no chaos, no abandoned posts without warning. Each withdrawal was methodical, with proper handover protocols observed even as humanity severed its ties. Back in the Council chamber, The initial shock was giving way to cold reality. The Mektar representative, a small being with crystalline features, approached President Carter as the session dissolved into frantic discussions. "The atmospheric processors on our colony worlds," the Mektar said quietly. "The ones your engineers designed. We cannot maintain them without human expertise." "Complete technical documentation has been provided to your government," Olivia replied. "Whether your engineers can implement it is not our concern anymore." In the Earth Embassy, now nearly empty as staff-packed essential items, Ryan Martinez faced an uncomfortable task. The young diplomatic aide sat before the main communication array, disconnecting Earth from the vast QNET that linked Council worlds. Each severed node represented years of shared knowledge and cooperation. "Defense node disconnected," he reported through his comlink to Commander Brooks. "Shutting down the early warning relays now." Ryan watched as vast sections of the network display went dark. The interconnected web of humanity's contributions to Council security became glaringly apparent as it disappeared piece by piece. "Science database access terminated," he continued. "Agricultural development networks offline." Susan Miller entered the communication center, carrying the last of the secure files. "How's it going?" Ryan gestured to the display. "It's strange. I've spent my entire career trying to strengthen these connections. Now I'm cutting them all." Susan nodded sympathetically. "Sometimes you have to show people your value by letting them experience your absence." Across the diplomatic district, other human embassies were going through similar processes. 97 years of integration being methodically dismantled in a single day. Some alien staff members watched in disbelief, others in quiet understanding. As President Carter and Commander Brooks departed the council chamber, they passed numerous delegations already deep in emergency sessions. The Zilonian representatives huddled with their traditional allies, while the younger races formed their own clusters, many casting thoughtful glances toward the departing humans. "It's done," Olivia said quietly as they entered their transport. "No going back now." Alan looked out at the gleaming city that had been his home for years. "They never believed we would actually leave. That's why they felt free to exploit us for so long." "How long before they feel the full impact?" asked Olivia. "Some effects will be immediate," Alan replied. "The Void Swarm incursions are just the beginning. Within months, their research progress will slow dramatically. Their military coordination will suffer without our tactical systems. But the deeper impacts might take a year to fully manifest." The transport lifted off, joining a convoy of ships carrying the last humans leaving Centauri Prime. Below them, the magnificent city continued to shine, unaware that its foundation had just been critically weakened. "They'll come after us," Olivia said. "Try to force us back into their system on their terms," Alan nodded. "We'll be ready. But first they'll have to admit to themselves how much they needed us all along." The ships accelerated toward the jump point, leaving the capital world behind. Humanity was going home to chart its own path among the stars. 3 months passed since humanity withdrew from the Galactic Council. The consequences became clearer with each passing day. On Centauri Prime, the magnificent Central Science Academy stood quiet and half-empty. Where once the halls buzzed with activity at all hours, now many laboratories remained unused. Council scientists worked diligently, but progress had slowed to a crawl. Professor Zal of the Palladium delegation stared in frustration at the experimental results on his screen. The anti-radiation project that had been advancing rapidly under joint development now faced another setback. Without the human scientists and their unconventional approaches, his team kept hitting the same obstacles. "We've tried the standard approaches," said his assistant. "Perhaps we should consult the archives of human methodology?" Zal sighed deeply. "Their notes are incomplete. They kept many of their intuitive leaps in their heads. The humans had a gift for seeing connections where we see only separate elements." Similar scenes played out across council space. The scientific innovation rate had dropped by 63% according to internal reports. Projects that had made breakthroughs under human leadership now advanced at the plodding pace typical of the elder races, before humanity joined galactic society on the military front. The situation grew increasingly dire. General Krav of the Drati Defense Force reviewed casualty reports from the latest Void Swarm engagement with growing alarm. The combined Council fleet had lost 27 ships to destroy a swarm nest that previous models suggested should have required only minor losses. "Our tactics are too predictable," Krav told his officers. "The swarm adapts quickly." The humans constantly varied their approaches, keeping the enemy off balance. "We've fallen back into our old patterns." The Void Swarm seemed to sense the change. Their attacks grew more coordinated, targeting weaknesses that would have been covered by human tactical systems. 3 minor colony worlds had already been evacuated in the face of advancing swarm elements. The Council races discovered that while they had often complained about human unpredictability, that very trait had been their greatest weapon against an enemy that quickly adapted to consistent patterns. On Earth, Dr. Kelly Wright watched the developments with mixed emotions. As the former head of the Joint Human Galactic Medical Research Team, she had built close relationships with scientists across many species. Her communication screen displayed reports from the Valen system, where a viral pandemic now spread through 3 Council worlds. "The death toll has reached 12,000, said her Mektar colleague through the secure channel. The crystalline being's facets dimmed with distress. "Our medical teams cannot stabilize the mutation rate. The protocols your team developed were never fully implemented after your departure." Kelly's team had been mere weeks away from a breakthrough on the virus before the withdrawal. "I'm sorry, Renthal, I truly am. But you know I can't send our research without authorization." The Mektar-S crystalline form shimmered in what Kelly recognized as their version of a nod. "I understand. The Council made its choice. We live with the consequences." After ending the call, Kelly walked to the window of her laboratory in the North American Medical Center. Earth had changed in the months since the withdrawal. With focus shifted away from Council obligations, human innovation had accelerated dramatically. Her own research team now worked on projects that would have been deemed too experimental by Council standards. Without the bureaucratic restrictions, they had already made breakthroughs that might have taken years under the old system. Still, she couldn't help feeling the weight of those suffering in Council space. They were not the ones who had rejected humanity, merely citizens caught in the aftermath of decisions made by leaders who had undervalued their human allies. On the industrial planet Novoterra, the final human mining operation prepared for departure. Foreman Doug Phillips supervised as his team disabled the specialized equipment they had designed to extract rare minerals from the planet's toxic atmosphere. The machinery was powered down methodically, left intact but inactive. "You're really leaving?" asked Vex, a native Novan supervisor who had worked alongside Doug for years. The squat, 6-limbed being seemed genuinely distressed. "The extraction rates will fall by 80% without your teams." Doug nodded, securing the last power coupling. "Orders are orders. The equipment specs have been provided to your engineering team. It's all there if they can figure it out." Both knew this was unlikely. The Novans were skilled operators but lacked the technical creativity to maintain or replicate the human-designed systems. The specialized equipment required constant adjustments to handle the ever-changing atmospheric conditions. Adaptations that human engineers made instinctively but that baffled the more methodical Novan approach. "Our economy will collapse without these minerals," Vex said quietly. Doug placed a hand on his alien colleague's shoulder. "Maybe your Council representatives should have thought about that before they decided humans weren't worthy of equal standing." The human mining ships lifted off later that day, carrying specialized equipment that couldn't be left behind. From orbit, Doug watched as the massive atmospheric processors built by humans began to power down. Within weeks, the toxic gases would reclaim areas that had been made habitable. Another consequence of the Council's choice. Back on Earth, humanity redirected its considerable energies inward and outward simultaneously. Freed from Council restrictions on expansion, survey ships pushed into regions of space previously designated as off-limits to human settlement. These areas, often claimed but never developed by elder races, offered abundant resources and habitable worlds. Captain Frank Turner, now promoted to admiral, oversaw the deployment of the expanded Earth defense fleet. New ship designs incorporated innovations that would have been shared with the Council in the past. Now they served humanity exclusively. "The Epsilon Sector survey is complete," reported his executive officer. "2 potentially habitable planets and a resource-rich asteroid belt." "No signs of void swarm activity," Frank nodded approvingly. "Establish listening posts and begin preliminary colonization protocols. Let's move quickly while the Council is distracted with their internal problems." President Olivia Carter met regularly with Commander Alan Brooks, who now served as her special advisor on galactic affairs. They reviewed the steady stream of unofficial communications from various species seeking to maintain connections with humanity outside Council structures. "The Drati ambassador requests another private channel discussion," Alan noted. "Their military situation grows more desperate. The Void Swarm has taken another of their outer colonies." Olivia considered this information carefully. "Maintain the dialogue but make no commitments. They need to understand that any future relationship must be on equal terms," Alan agreed. "We're receiving similar overtures from 11 other species. Now, most were among those who supported our membership bids in the past." "And the elder races?" Olivia asked. "Silent officially," Alan replied with a small smile. "Though our intelligence suggests growing factions within even the Zilonian hierarchy, who question the wisdom of losing human cooperation. Earth itself flourished under the new direction. Resources previously committed to joint projects now fueled human advancement. Cities expanded, new technologies emerged, and the economy strengthened as trade shifted to human colonies rather than Council worlds. Yet behind the progress lay a watchful readiness. Humanity knew the Council or the Void Swarm might eventually force a confrontation. Defense remained a priority even as expansion continued. Humanity had walked away, but with eyes wide open to the dangers that still lurked among the stars. The lessons of their time with the Council had not been forgotten. As humans spread to new worlds, they carried with them the determination to never again allow themselves to be treated as less than equals. The galaxy was vast, with plenty of room for a species that had finally recognized its own worth. 1 year after humanity's withdrawal, the Galactic Council chamber no longer shone with its former splendor. The grand space designed to showcase unity now displayed the growing fractures within the interstellar government. 2 distinct groups had formed among the member species, seated on opposite sides of the chamber and rarely engaging directly with each other. The elder races, led by the Zilonians and Verax, occupied the traditional leadership positions, but their authority faced unprecedented challenges. Across the chamber sat the block of younger races, with the Drati serving as their unofficial leaders. The division had grown more pronounced with each passing month as the consequences of humanity's absence deepened. High Speaker Zalvaran struggled to maintain order as another heated debate erupted. "The Council has maintained peace and stability for 12,000 years, he reminded the assembly, his blue skin darkening with frustration. "These temporary difficulties do not justify abandoning our proven governance methods." The Drati ambassador rose to respond, his feathered crest fully extended in agitation. "Temporary? 3 more worlds lost to the Void Swarm this cycle alone. Research output down by nearly 70%. Trade volume decreased by half. These are not temporary problems, Speaker. They are systemic failures exposed by humanity's departure." Murmurs of agreement came from the younger species section. The Mektar representative, Renthal, added her voice to the criticism. "My homeworld's atmospheric converters are failing without human engineering support. 2 colony habitats have already been abandoned. These systems were designed with human innovation at their core. The Council approved these dependencies while simultaneously denying humans equal status. The hypocrisy is now costing lives." The High Speaker's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep irritation. Perhaps if your species had developed proper self-sufficiency instead of becoming dependent on human shortcuts, you would not face such difficulties now. The chamber erupted in angry shouts from the younger races block. The divisions that had once been subtle political differences now threatened the very existence of the council itself. Several species had already begun making noise about following humanity's example and withdrawing completely. Far from these political battles, humanity continued to thrive in its new independence. Earth's shipyards worked at full capacity, producing vessels for defense and exploration rather than council patrols. Without restrictions on expansion, human colonies spread through previously untouched sectors of space, establishing outposts and settlements at a pace that would have horrified the methodical elder races on the frontier colony of New Hope. Terraforming. Specialist Wendy Clark monitored atmospheric readings with satisfaction. The Earth-like planet had been deemed unsuitable for habitation by Council standards due to its unstable atmospheric composition. Using techniques that would have been considered too experimental under Council regulations, Wendy's team had transformed the volatile atmosphere in months rather than the decades the traditional approach would have required. Oxygen levels stabilized at 21%, she noted as her assistant updated their records. Methane has dropped below detectable limits. We can begin the final stage of botanical seeding next week. The colony around them bustled with activity. New Hope had become a symbol of human potential unleashed, growing from an initial settlement of 500 to nearly 10,000 in just 1 year. Similar success stories emerged across human space as innovation accelerated without the restraints of Council oversight. In orbit above Earth, Admiral Gary Nelson reviewed defense deployments from the bridge of the flagship Defiant. The newly commissioned vessel incorporated technologies that would have been shared with the Council in the past. Now they served humanity alone? Status report on the Outer Beacon Network? He asked his operations officer. Fully operational, Admiral. Early warning coverage extends 20 light-years beyond our farthest colony now. No void swarm signatures detected in monitored space. Gary nodded with satisfaction. The network of automated detection stations had been deployed with remarkable speed, creating a buffer zone around human territory that would provide warning of any approach, whether from the void swarm or Council forces. Though no direct threats had emerged, humanity remained vigilant. Through unofficial channels, Earth maintained limited contact with sympathetic species. Council diplomat Lisa Duncan, one of the few humans who had kept such connections active, received increasingly desperate messages from former allies. The situation grows worse, the Drati ambassador told her during a secure communication. Void swarm attacks have increased by 340% in sectors formerly protected by human fleets. Our defenses cannot adapt quickly enough to their changing tactics. Lisa nodded sympathetically but offered no promises. I will convey your concerns to our leadership, but you understand our position remains unchanged. Any cooperation must begin with recognition of full equality. After ending the call, Lisa compiled her weekly report for Commander Alan Brooks. The messages told a consistent story across Council space. Systems failing without human maintenance, defenses crumbling without human tactical support, research stalling without human creativity. The mighty Galactic Council, which had dismissed humanity as unworthy of membership, now struggled to function without them. In the President's office in the rebuilt White House, Olivia Carter and Alan Brooks discussed the latest intelligence. The Council is splitting into factions, Alan explained, displaying holographic reports. The younger races demand reform while the elder species resist any change to their power structure. Olivia studied the information thoughtfully. And the void swarm, expanding unchecked in several sectors? Council forces lack the coordination and adaptability to contain them effectively. At current rates, the swarm will reach core Council worlds within 2 years. The President walked to the window overlooking the Washington Monument. The historic city had changed with the rest of Earth, ancient monuments now standing alongside buildings incorporating technologies developed after the withdrawal. Do we intervene? Alan considered carefully. Not yet. The Council made their choice. They need to fully understand the consequences before any new relationship can be established. Olivia nodded in agreement. And our own security? Stronger than ever, Alan assured her. Admiral Nelson has established a defensive perimeter that would challenge even a combined Council fleet, though intelligence suggests they can barely maintain cohesive operations anymore. Beyond Earth, human expansion continued at a pace that would have scandalized the Council. Survey ships mapped new sectors while colony vessels followed close behind. Resources previously committed to Council projects now fueled human advancement exclusively. Industries flourished without restrictive trade agreements, and scientific breakthroughs occurred weekly without bureaucratic oversight. On the research station orbiting Jupiter, Dr. Kelly Wright led a team developing new medical technologies, free from Council restrictions. The neural regeneration technique is showing 98% success in trials, she told her colleagues. We've accomplished in months what the Council's regulatory process would have stretched to years. One of her team members, a young researcher who had never worked under Council oversight, looked up from his data. I heard the Mektar are suffering from a pandemic we could help with. Why don't we offer them our research? Kelly sighed, feeling the weight of difficult choices. Policy decisions aren't ours to make. For now, we focus on helping humanity. The rest will sort itself out in time. Throughout human space, similar conversations occurred as people reflected on their new independence. Most celebrated the freedom and rapid advancement, yet some felt concern for the alien colleagues and friends they had left behind. Humanity had walked away to forge its own path, but the connections formed over nearly a century could not be so easily severed. As the first anniversary of the withdrawal approached, Earth prepared to commemorate the decision that had reshaped their society. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Galactic Council continued its slow fragmentation, divided between those who recognized the need for fundamental change and those who clung to the old order that had already begun to crumble around them. The lesson was painful but clear. They had never truly valued humanity until humanity was gone. 3 years after humanity's withdrawal from galactic affairs, the early warning beacons around Earth's solar system detected an unusual formation approaching. It was not the dreaded void swarm nor a Council military force. Instead, sensors identified 17 distinct vessel types, each representing a different alien species. They maintained perfect formation at a respectful distance, transmitting continuous peace signals on all frequencies. Admiral Gary Nelson studied the tactical display on the bridge of the EDF Defiant. Quite the parade they've sent us. Drati, Mektar, Kranth, and others. No Zilonian or Varric ships, though. Interesting, his executive officer nodded. They're maintaining position at the outer marker as requested. Their message states they come as individual civilizations, not Council representatives. Gary's expression remained cautious. After 3 years of independence, humanity had grown stronger, but also more wary. Keep our defense grid at ready status. Inform Earth that we'll escort their diplomatic vessel to the neutral meeting point. The alien delegation waited patiently at the designated coordinates, a point in space precisely halfway between Earth's outer defense perimeter and the approaching ships. President Olivia Carter had chosen to attend personally, bringing Commander Alan Brooks as her chief advisor. Their vessel, the diplomatic cruiser Accord, approached the meeting point with a full military escort. Inside the Accord's conference room, Olivia reviewed final reports before the historic meeting. How serious is their situation? She asked. Alan, critical, he replied. The Council effectively collapsed 8 months ago. The elder races maintain a smaller alliance among themselves, but most species have declared independence. Meanwhile, the void swarm has evolved beyond previous patterns. Our intelligence suggests they've developed some form of collective intelligence, rather than the instinctive behavior observed in the past. Olivia nodded thoughtfully. Earth had been monitoring these developments through various unofficial channels and long-range observation posts, and they believe we can help them stop it. They know they can't stop it without us, Alan corrected. That's a very different position than the one they held 3 years ago. The alien representatives boarded the Accord with minimal ceremony. The conference room had been arranged with a circular table, emphasizing the equal standing of all present. The Drati speaker led the delegation, his once vibrant feather crest now dulled with stress and fatigue. "President Carter, Commander Brooks," the Drati began, "we thank you for agreeing to this meeting. We come not as council envoys, but as independent civilizations seeking alliance with humanity." Olivia nodded acknowledgement. "The distinction is important to us. Please continue." The Drati gestured to his colleagues. "Each of us represents a world or system directly threatened by the evolved void swarm. We bring formal apologies for past treatment of humanity, recognition of your rightful place as equals, and a proposal for mutual defense." The Mektar representative Renthal stepped forward. Her crystalline form had lost some of its luster since Kelly Wright had last seen her colleague. "We also bring technological offerings developed from human theoretical models. Incomplete, but perhaps useful with your expertise to refine them." The warrior Kranth, a massive reptilian being, spoke next. "The swarm has changed. They hunt with purpose now, targeting our defense systems with precision. Our military strategists believe this indicates a guiding intelligence rather than the mindless consumption of the past. This represents an existential threat to all sapient life." As each representative spoke, the gravity of the situation became clear. The void swarm had indeed evolved, developing coordination and strategic thinking that made it vastly more dangerous than before. Without the technological edge and tactical unpredictability that humanity had provided, the fragmented former council races faced extinction. President Carter listened to each presentation without interruption. When all had spoken, she responded carefully. "Your situation is grave, and we appreciate your directness. Humanity will consider your proposal, but I must consult with Earth's leadership before any decision can be made." The aliens accepted this with visible relief. Even consideration was more than they had dared hope for after years of separation. The Drati speaker bowed deeply in the human manner. "We await your response, President Carter. Our worlds stand ready to forge new bonds on terms of absolute equality." Back on Earth, President Carter convened an emergency session of global leadership to consider the alien proposal. The debate was heated, reflecting the complex emotions humanity still harbored toward their former associates. Admiral Nelson argued forcefully against any renewed contact. "We've thrived on our own. Why risk entanglement in their problems again? The void swarm hasn't approached our territory yet," countered Alan Brooks. "Intelligence suggests it's only a matter of time. The swarm's new behavior indicates planning and purpose. If they consume enough civilizations, their resources will eventually turn toward us." Dr. Kelly Wright presented the most compelling evidence. Her team had analyzed data provided by the delegation on the swarm's evolution. "The pattern is clear and deeply concerning," she explained, displaying holographic models. "The swarm's adaptation rate has accelerated beyond even our projections. What we're seeing isn't just tactical learning, but genuine emergent intelligence." She highlighted specific changes in swarm behavior. Previous encounters showed predictable patterns based on feeding and reproduction. Current attacks target communication systems, power sources, and defense networks before civilian populations. They're deliberately crippling resistance capability. First, then consuming resources systematically. The implications silenced even the strongest voices of isolation. An intelligent void swarm presented a threat beyond anything previously faced. Such an enemy would not respect boundaries or independence. If allowed to consume enough civilizations and their technologies, it would eventually become unstoppable. After days of deliberation, Earth reached its decision. President Carter addressed the waiting delegation aboard the Accord. "Humanity recognizes the threat posed by the evolved void swarm as a danger to all sapient life, including our own. We are prepared to form new alliances to confront this enemy." The alien representative showed visible relief, but Carter raised her hand to continue. "However, we will not return to the old council. That chapter is closed. Any new alliance must be founded on principles of absolute equality, mutual respect, and shared responsibility. The Dradi speaker nodded eagerly. These terms are precisely what we hoped for. The old council model failed us all. We seek a true confederation of equals. Within weeks, the framework for the new Galactic Confederation took shape. Earth stood as a founding member with equal status to all other participating worlds. The old hierarchies that had defined the Council for millennia gave way to a more balanced structure where influence derived from contribution rather than age or tradition. The former elder races faced a difficult choice. The Zilonians initially refused to join any organization where they did not hold privileged status, but as the Void Swarm consumed 2 of their outer colonies, pragmatism finally overcame pride. One by one, even the oldest civilizations requested admission to the new confederation, accepting the terms of equality that humanity had established. Commander Alan Brooks, who had begun this journey with humanity's withdrawal, now found himself leading the integration team for the new alliance. The irony was not lost on him as he worked with representatives from worlds that had once deemed humans unworthy of equal standing on the main hangar deck of the massive Confederation defense platform. Alan watched as ships from 17 species practiced joint maneuvers, preparing for the coming confrontation with the Void Swarm. Human vessels flew alongside alien craft, sharing technologies and tactics that would have been unimaginable under the old regime. "It's quite a sight," said President Carter, joining him at the observation window. 3 years ago, they couldn't imagine treating us as equals. Now they can't imagine facing the future without us. Alan nodded, watching as a human frigate executed a perfect defensive pattern with Dradi and Mektar support vessels. Sometimes you have to walk away to find your true place. We needed to value ourselves before they could value us properly. Beyond the viewport, the combined fleet continued its preparations. The Void Swarm would soon face an alliance unlike anything in galactic history, one forged in equality rather than hierarchy. Humanity had walked away only to return on their own terms, and the galaxy would never be the same again.